I'm Frank, and this is the Yamanote Line Ramen series. We are today in Hamamatsucho, Tokyo's waterfront maze of monorails, ship masts, and a seriously stacked ramen scene. And today, I think we're going to be visiting the top-ranked shop in Hamamatsucho on Tabelog. First time we're doing this. Let's go. Welcome back to the Yamanote Line Ramen series, where I'm eating ramen at every single stop on Tokyo's bright green train loop. We're moving clockwise, knocking out one station at a time. Today, we've arrived in Hamamatsucho, a neighborhood I always split into two in my head. There's the Hamamatsucho side, right by the water with sleek hotels, ferry ports, and an open coastal feel. And then there's Daimon, which has its share of shiny office buildings, but also feels more grounded and old school in parts. Above it all, Tokyo Tower hovers. When it comes to ramen though, Hamamatsucho is absolutely stacked. Just like Shimbashi, which we covered in the last episode, it's loaded with both variety and quality. We're talking everything from ridiculously rich chicken ramen to soupless bowls with insanely good noodles. So yes, once again, it wasn't easy narrowing it down. Expect a longer episode and expect me to ramble on quite a bit. Let's get into it. Now walking to the main ramen shop we'll be featuring in this Hamamatsucho episode, and I had a hard time narrowing it down. Hamamatsucho, as mentioned there, the voiceover is equally as stacked as Shimbashi. There's so much good ramen out here. But today, I decided we'd start at the very top of the heap with that pick, and that is Menkurai. I've been here before, and I've had their shoyu ramen, but what I'm getting today is soupless ramen. Still shoyu based, and I was thinking in my head about all the places we've featured up to now. There's been a lot of shoyu, but the main shops, let's see, at Tokyo Station we had Kaneda, shoyu based. Same can be said for Tani in Yurakucho. Shimbashi, I changed things up with shrimp ramen at Ebibota, but also tossed in shoyu with Hachan. And technically this place, Menkurai, they are in their soupless ramen, it is shoyu based, but this is going to be a completely different ramen. Soupless ramen does not get enough love. And these noodles, oh my god, they might be the thickest noodles ever in ramen. I had them in their shoyu ramen, can't wait to try them in their soupless ramen. Let's go. Okay, so we got a lot to cover. First of all, this great view, or pretty good view. You've got the waterfront behind me here. I can see in the distance Rainbow Bridge, and also Odaiba with the Fuji TV building. And in front of me, we've got highways, layered Hamamatsucho highways, and the monorail. This 360 view I've got pretty much summarizes the area. Before I talk a bit more about the area, let's talk about Menkurai, the ramen shop that we just visited. Oh my god, that was one of the best soupless ramens, or abara soba, that I have had up to now. And those noodles stole the show. Thick noodles, super hefty, and with great chewiness to them. Mochi mochi, as they say. And I don't think I've been to any other ramen shop where the noodles are like that. Those noodles are special. They are one of a kind, and oh my god, that made the dish. Now, the seasoning is soy sauce based. And again, getting back to soy sauce, but there's quite a bit of pork lard there just to, well, give it extra flavor, but also to help flavors cling to the noodles, including that soy sauce. It wasn't super pronounced. It was, I feel like, relatively light. And what stood out was the pork grease, but also little bits of spice with every other bite. And that spiciness, the little sparks going off, they reminded me of maybe Southeast Asian cuisine, because it's not something you normally get in Japanese soupless ramen. Yeah, you can add ryu chili oil, which I did a little bit later along with vinegar, but that in itself just made me think of like a Thai dish, for example, pad see ew, for example. It was so good. There was a little bit of negi or spring onions on top. There was some fresh garlic, raw garlic. Soupless ramen is in your face. Like, these are strong flavors. And what's great about soupless ramen is that the soup, of course, not being there, you really get to appreciate the noodles. And that, of course, was very much possible with these super thick noodles at Menkurai. Now, I was deciding whether to get the regular abara soba or get it with all toppings. And I went for all toppings. I was like, why not? There were several pieces of chashu, I think 3, nice and smoky. Not super fatty, but I think that was a good choice, given that the noodles in the pork grease made it a pretty fatty experience. There was also an egg and wonderful dumplings. I knew the dumplings were going to be good because this is actually a ramen shop that's created by the same people that do a ramen shop called Waka, one of my favorite in Tokyo. They're in Shinagawa. We might be featuring them once we get down to Shinagawa in this series. Now, before we talk about Hamamatsucho, it's interesting because on Tabelog, and again, I'm not sponsored by Tabelog, should I be? On Tabelog, which is basically a Yelp of Japan, they were at the very top of Tabelog. in Hamamatsucho. And then you look at Google and they're 3.7. First off, I'd like to say that do not dismiss a ramen shop or any restaurant on Google if you see a 3.7 to 3.9. The sweet spot in Japan is actually from about 3.7 to maybe 4.1 or 4.2. If it's 4.5, it's probably only tourists that are going there. And that's fine, of course. That could be wonderful food. But Japanese, they're not that eager to give out 5 stars normally. They'll give 4 stars, even if they'll say something like, this was the best meal of my life. It's just not in the culture. So the reviews are naturally going to be lower. This can be said about Tabelog, this can be said about Google, but it's so interesting because this ramen restaurant, super famous, well-regarded Tokyo ramen shop in Menkurai. It's good to use different sources. I use Tabelog, Google, and also Ramen Database to get my ramen restaurants lined up. A little bit after they opened and right after I left, there was an army of workers about to go in. So it does pay to arrive early. Now, what order should we do this in? We talk about Hamamatsucho and Daimon, or do we talk about the ramen? Let's talk real quick about the area, getting back to this waterfront. I'm a fan of Hamamatsucho. I don't come out here for too many reasons, but I like this spot here. Every so often I'd take a cruise, but very nautical around here. You've got a ship mast, you've got reminders that we're on the water, not just the smell of the ocean or whatever smells that is coming from Tokyo Bay, and the city also feels very layered in that there's quite a few highways here. Again, getting back to the industrial, let's say, waterfront of Tokyo, you have a lot of big trucks carrying supplies, maybe to warehouses on the water. You have a lot of highways here because of that, and also the Yamanote Line as well as the monorail. So it's very elevated. You have things moving above you all the time, and it gives Hamamatsucho in some parts a little bit of a futuristic feel. Now that's Hamamatsucho. On the other side, you've got Daimon. And Daimon is a great part of Tokyo too. You're close to Shibakoen, it gets pretty green. You're going over towards Tokyo Tower as well. You can see it pretty much anywhere you walk in that area, unless there's a tall building in your way. To me, that feels the most like at least the Minato-ku I know, especially once you get towards Tokyo Tower and it starts to get more bougie and bougie. This is a different side of Minato-ku, or Minato Ward. Of the 23 cities or wards in Tokyo, Minato is one of them. Anyways, Daimon is great. It's got a different vibe from here, away from the water. You also have office buildings, but you have some old restaurants. I think the coolest part is definitely Zojoji Temple, which is unfortunately not visible right now. Kyushiba-rikyu Gardens is very close to where I am right now. And if you have a chance, these are beautiful gardens. Not that big, but for only what I believe was 200 yen, you can go inside and it's a beautiful, beautiful little garden sanctuary in the midst of all this. And now let's dive into ramen. And going down the list, we've got Chuka Soba Izuru. They do niboshi ramen. I've been there before. Great niboshi ramen. Not as intense maybe as some other niboshi bowls can be, but off the top of my head, a solid bowl of niboshi ramen. You can get a lighter or more intense niboshi or sardine dried fish ramen. And those two or anything you order there are really good. One of the best for niboshi ramen in Tokyo for sure. Hachan ramen. Hachan ramen is run by a Vietnamese gentleman that actually trained at Honda. Honda is one of Tokyo's most well-respected ramen restaurants. Honda himself, he was a bit of a prodigy. He started making ramen at, what was it, the age of 16? I gotta check out this blog, 5 AM Ramen, to see what the actual age is as a reference. Honda is in Akihabara. There's a long line if you decide to go there, but if you don't want to have as long a line, you can visit Hachan here in Hamamatsucho. And they do amazing shoyu ramen. The soup, there's a lot of chiyu or chicken oil on top, giving it a syrupy finish with a nice soy sauce seasoning. Delicious, delicious bowl. And you should definitely get it with all the toppings. At Honda, they definitely charge a lot there for getting it with all toppings. Not the case here at Hachan. You can get duck, chicken, and pork, beautiful cuts prepared in different ways. And that would be my recommendation at Hachan. Next on the list, Toripota Ramen Thank. Thank is fantastic. They do rich chicken ramen. You can also choose the level of intensity, the level of richness for the rich chicken ramen. But one of the best examples, I think, of toripaitan or rich chicken ramen in Tokyo. Okurindo. This place is fun because they also do dried fish ramen, but you get to choose your fish. I wish I had the list here in front of me, but everything from mackerel to sardines to some more unusual options. And you can get a nice little, what looks like a teishoku with your ramen. And interestingly enough, after that, I have not been to some of these places. The next 5 shops I haven't been to, that rounds out the top 10. And that is, again, how stacked Hamamatsucho is. If we want to talk about Shimbashi and Hamamatsucho, I would say that Shimbashi is a little more stacked because looking at the Tabelog list in Shimbashi, I think within the top 20, maybe at number 19, we're still at 3.6. In Hamamatsucho, at number 10, we're at 3.62, but after that, at number 11, we dropped to 3.58. Again, do not dismiss a ramen restaurant. I'm talking about all these rankings and things, but there's going to be great ramen to be had at 3.5 or so on Tabelog, including Shinpuku Saikan. I didn't even know they had a Hamamatsucho branch. They are a Kyoto ramen restaurant that's been around since, what is it, the 30s? Long story short, Hamamatsucho is a must visit, and I would say that it's less of a touristy place, but you've got great local attractions, whether it's the Kyushibarikyu Gardens or even a little bit farther up, the Hamarikyu Gardens, which are more famous. Hope you enjoyed this video, more of my ramen rambling. I had a lot of fun filming here. I hope you had a lot of fun watching this video. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed everything that you've seen up to now. And I hope to see you in the next episode. We're going to be visiting on the Yamanote Line, Tamachi next. A little bit of nautical vibes like here, but not quite as much. And if there's anything Tamachi is known for ramen-wise, it is for Jiro ramen. I'm a little scared to make this video. Not scared, but yeah, I have a complicated relationship with Jiro. We'll unpack all of that, my Jiro trauma, if there is any trauma. Hope to see you in Tamachi, the next Yamanote Line ramen series episode. Thanks for tuning in. Frank from 5am Ramen, signing out.